Welcome back, everybody, to the season of encounters. That's right. More views than ever before, more encounter stories, more Bigfoot Campfire Stories. It's all wrapping up right here. Tonight we're going to Allegheny County, Pennsylvania. Official Bigfoot Reports and trackers team of Bigfoot in Pennsylvania say it isn't so. Well, absolutely it is so, and that's right. As the little title down there is going to tell you, I'm the Reverend Jeff Kelly, and this is the Squatchers Lounge podcast, and I am also the shepherd of lost sheep. That's right. We're right here every week, Wednesday at 8 p.m. I'm Reverend Jeff. You're you, and that makes this awesome. So right now we're going to talk about some news of the week. There's a little bit of stuff to talk about here. Let's go ahead and take a look. Apparently, deer have been getting even. They've been caught eating human carcasses. At least they haven't started eating hunters yet. For the first time ever, forensic scientists have caught deer eating a human carcass. Researchers at the Forensic Anthropology Research Facility in San Marcos, Texas, Body Farm, were testing the effects of various scavengers on human remains when they caught the unexpected on camera. The research facility in Texas is completely dedicated to studying the decay of human remains. That's right, you can donate your body to them to science. What happens in the decomposition process. And I'm not one. I'm not down. I'm not like selling my body to science so Bambi can eat me. What's a little more Phil? Not real sure why they didn't stop them, but I guess it's all part of science. You can check this one out at wideopenspaces.com. There's a bunch of them out there right now. Hey, I was talking about my first aid kit with some folks in a hangout one night, and I said, duct tape fixes everything. Why can't I put a wound back together with duct tape? And then I thought, no, that'd be awful because the adhesive would be all over the wound and the doctor would kill me for putting it in there. But apparently I was wrong. Piece of duct tape on either side sewn together keeps you from having to stitch the skin. So that's always been my thing with sutures. I'm just not one that I want to really stitch somebody's body back together, but I will put you back together with duct tape. So lucky for you, some extra paracord, an upholster's needle, as I'm told, and some duct tape is now part of my first aid kit. So when you get all screwed up, I can put you back together with duct tape too. Padding.com is where I learned about this one. Yee-ha. All right. Dodos. I thought dodos were gone. Well, apparently not. They've just turned into something else. Dodo's relative, the Nicobar pigeon, found in northwest Australia's Kimberley region, the closest living relative to the famously extinct dodo, has been found in a remote part of northwest Australia for the first time. The Nicobar pigeon is the large bird considered near threatened, and its typical forest habitat is isolated Southeast Asian islands. Weird that it showed up in Australia, but Aboriginal rangers in the West Kimberley region of Western Australia, who had an intimate knowledge of the local plants and animals, were stunned, I tell you, when they saw the strange bird cross a brush track before their eyes. Wow, what a magnificent looking pigeon. Pigeons are fancy. I like pigeons. Birds are my favorite, I think. All right. Did this mysterious ape human once live alongside our ancestors? Yeah, we talked about Homo naledi last year. Big show about it. You can actually search it on the channel. Learn all about Homo naledi. Is it part of the human family tree? I'm not so sure about that. It's definitely a cousin. Hashtag stop eating your cousin. These little monkey-like creatures were running around on two legs using fire and burying their dead. This is a reconstruction of Homo naledi by the paleo artist John Gooch, who was crafted from the skull remains from the Rising Star Cave Systems, Denalati, and Lesacati Chambers. Yeah, that's too much Latin for me. All right, moving right along here down to the article. A year and a half after a puzzling new member of the human family tree, a team of researchers working in South Africa have offered an additional twist. The species far younger than its bizarre primitive body would suggest, and may have shared the landscape with early Homo sapiens. Kind of something we've said on this program for a very long time. If one type of ape stood up out of Africa and hauled ass on two legs, chances are crap loads of other species in between them did too, and this is just going to be one of them. Actually, I believe this one went the other way, which was really weird for it. First discovered in 2013 by two cavers exploring the Rising Star cave system near Johannesburg. See, that's what I was talking about. It went. They didn't come out of Africa. They went to South Africa and went, oh, shit. We done went the wrong way, fellas. A stunning trove of hominin remains, the single richest fossil site of its kind ever found in Africa, revealed a tiny brain species with shoulders and a torso like an ape's, but with some unshakably human-like features as well. The mosaic's name Homo naledi after the Sesotho word star. There you go. So did they live alongside us? I don't know. They're still thinking that the Florensis man, Homo florensiensis, may have as well. So why not? These are our Bigfoot type creatures, people. I'm telling you, all over the world, there are going to be Sasquatch type creatures that are discovered. If they're not extinct now, maybe on their way out. Relic populations, and the Meldrum may have had something right. Relic hominid processes, or yeah, they're out there. They're most likely are still out there, and this is the stories that we're still collecting. All right, ours is called Bigfoot. And we got a story to tell you about that one at the end of this. All right. There's another one, another article from Ancient Earth that basically just lays out a little bit more information on the Homo naledi story. The research published today in the papers of the journals present that the long-awaited age of the fossils from the chamber and announces a new discovery of a second chamber in the Rising Star cave system containing additional specimens of Homo naledi. So we don't just have one now, we've got several, and that's going to be really, really cool because they're going to be able to get a genome out of those and find the differences between those. I'd like to see what the percentage differences is between naledi and human. I'd be interested to see that comparison. Okay, speaking of good things to happen in weird places, China, of all places, to strengthen their conservation ties with Africa. I guess they've decided it's time to protect our cousins. Chinese officials have said that they're ready to consider requests for bilateral partnerships on conservation from African nations. The disclosure was made at the press briefing at the Chinese capital, Beijing, on May 5th of this year by forestry and wildlife officials. During the briefing, Wang Wishang, Deputy Director General for Wildlife Conservation and Natural Reserves Management of the State Forestry Administration, damn, that's a mouthful, said officials were recently sent to different African nations to warn Chinese businesses against involvement in wildlife trafficking. There'll be no more eating your cousin. Chinese nationals on visits in Africa are also reminded through text messages not to buy ivory nor rhinoceros products either. Holy crap, China's starting to become a second world country. Imagine that. Well, I get a little sip here. All right, coming down to it here. Gorillas make up little food songs while they eat. No shit. I listened to this. This is fun. I'm gonna eat a carrot. They're not the same songs. Each gorilla is different. They literally just sit there and hum and chomp as they're eating along. And these sound the SoundCloud links actually let you listen to them. Unfortunately, they're probably copyrighted, so we can't play them here. But I can send you the link if you really want to. They're kind of cute. Yeah, I don't want to be that close to record them when a big-ass gorilla's eating, but I found it kind of interesting. Okay, and finally, wrapping up the news tonight. It's been renamed American Bigfoot. Can't remember what the original name was. Sorry. But apparently they're going to be re-releasing it. They brought it back out. I guess there's been a distribution deal, and it's American Bigfoot, the movie trailer. You can search for it on YouTube. It's okay. It looks okay. It's got Ron Howard's weird-looking brother in it. So I guess they, I guess Stallone's brother was a little busy, so they got Ron Howard's brother to do it. But hey, he was in Austin Powers movies, so he's got to be a great actor, right? All right, well, that's gonna do it for our segment of the news tonight, and it's time for a little epic rant for the shepherd of lost sheep. As we spoke about Matthew Johnson here recently in the past, I said I wasn't going to bring it back up until the great reveal had actually been revealed. And apparently, it has. 6 long, epic, ranting hours of listening to the Gary Busey of Bigfooting go on and on and on about how everybody is stupid and ignorant, and we have to believe because this is the truth. Ultimately, Mr. Johnson was contacted by somebody who was able to bring him a machine that was going to help stabilize the portal somehow. And in order to make the portal open, Johnson and some friends visited the Oregon Vortex and Funhouse to get their bodies covered in what he called juju, so that everybody would be able to see the portal. And upon the portal presenting itself, they started up this magic Tesla-based machine that started on car batteries. And they stabilized the portal for Zorth, king of the Bigfoot light being people from their planet. And they stabilized the planet for the portal by feeding Zorth this juju energy through their vortex juju through this machine, and stabilized the portal and saved 23,500 beings of light. Actually, they saved 23,499 beings of light because the last one died on his way through, but was so thankful for the Johnson that he was saved. And for all his benevolence and for all of his hard work and for saving 23,500 people of an illegal alien species on our planet, Magic Johnson was bestowed upon him a 3-foot turd. Zorth stood upon 27-inch footprints and left him a 36-inch piece of shit and said, "Shellac me, encase me in glass, and go forth and tell my story. That Zorth is now the president of Earth, and the Council of 12 adds Matthew Johnson as 13 as the human contact." What the flying fuck's wrong with you people? Sorry. Lost my mind there for a moment. As an intelligent, normal thinking, slightly normal thinking, even abnormal thinking, I can believe in ghosts. But this shit, this is a special kind of. And it's not just him. It's the people around him. And as I watched all of this go on, and I tell you, don't waste 6 hours of your life watching this trash. Don't do it. Just don't do it. It's not worth it. It's enablers, enabling enablers. And even after the great reveal was over and all of their people were at this Bigfoot portal event talking with each other, none of them would admit to it either. Oh, but one lady was, "I can see Bigfoot areas with an EMF reader." I'd like to see some goddamn video evidence of that, lady. Seriously. Find me Bigfoot with an EMF reader, and you've got $1 billion project going on, and I'll get you funded. So contact me and show me how you found Bigfoot with an EMF reader, and we're down. Okay? And all the people around her just went, "Oh, really?" Nobody went, "Well, tell us how." Or, "Can you show us the EMF reader?" No. "Oh, really?" Another one went on to say how they send us their children to learn. Who? The beings of light who choose to be Sasquatch when they see. What the? Then you get the off jumpers. They were the ones who were on board with all of this portal shit 2 years ago, with crazy demon protector guardians of the portal coming out and doing battle with people for night after night and shutting the portal down with a flashlight. That was all fine until the stabilization and the brought forth of 23,500 Bigfoot. I'm sorry, but your portal bullshit from 2 years ago is a bite off of the same turd. It's just not quite as big. And for you to tell us that you're now taking a step, "I believe in a biological Bigfoot. I don't know what's going on with any of this." Well, you helped propagate it for 2 years that this portal shit was possible. And that's where this trash came from. I'm not saying strange things don't happen in the woods. I'm not saying strange things don't happen to strange people. I'm not saying strange things don't happen to normal people. All I am saying is this is ridiculous to a point that it embarrasses the entire community. And I'm going to stay forth and still be that shepherd of lost sheep. You people that were with him are welcome to come here and get the truth, or at least get realistic Bigfoot information. Okay? Being a leftover, some type of a relic ape in the Americas long before humans ever got here is paranormal enough for me. Okay, that's the way you're going to find it here. And that's where I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave it right there. Just a bit outside. Sorry, folks. I didn't mean to get so uppity about it, but it's really to the point that it's an embarrassment of the people around all the people who are agreeing with this crap. And I really hope that it dies, that it just falls away, because this isn't new. Kawani leprositis or leprosy or whatever the prick that guy's name is did this 20 years ago. This whole quantum Bigfoot from a different realm, interdimensional shit. It didn't go over then. It's not going to go over now. I don't know why anybody's bothering with this trash, but none of it's new. It's all been done before. It's just got a new name, and his name is Zorth. And he leaves a 3-foot turd in gratitude to go forth and spread the word. Alrighty, and with that, let's move on to a Quasi Rewind. That's what I was thinking of. I couldn't remember for the life of me where we were going to go after this, but that's exactly where we're going, is the Quasi Rewind with Mr. Dean Cooper. Let's see where we were back in 2015. And now, Quasi Theories from a Quasi-Scientist with your host, Dean Cooper.
This is a true story. Back in college, I moved off campus to a 2-bedroom apartment in an old 3-flat building. My roommate, Kim, was 2 years older than me. It was a platonic relationship. She and my girlfriend were good friends. I add at this point that my roommate was definitely psychic, and I am fairly sensitive to that whole realm as well. Shortly after moving in, Kim began complaining about visits late at night by an evil presence. I would be asleep when the visitor showed up and didn't notice anything. It started showing up while I was awake, and I definitely could tell it was at her end of the apartment. Creepy, evil feeling, chills up and down the spine, you know, the usual spooky sensations. A few weeks after this started, Kim told me what she knew about this presence. It was, of course, a black magician she and I had studied under way back in old Atlantis, coming to torment us now in his astral body. He was getting even with us for turning from the dark path to white good magic and fighting him and his evil ways. I maintained a neutral attitude to this news, but I knew something nasty afoot. A month into these shenanigans, Kim came knocking at my bedroom door around 2 a.m, wrapped in her blanket, being to sleep on the floor next to my bed. She said the guy was somewhat afraid of me because, back on Atlantis, I had become a stronger white magician than he was a black magician. I said she could sleep on the floor and use my spare blanket too. Half an hour later, the booger showed up at the other end of my bedroom. I could see a black glowing cloud, maybe 3 feet across, hovering about 5 feet off the floor. Yes, glowing black, with dull dark red tinges, radiating a nasty evil feeling. Kim was sitting on the floor, arms wrapped around her knees with a horrified look on her face. I sat up in bed, crossed my legs in a yoga posture called Siddhasana, and began mentally repeating a Sanskrit mantra I knew, directing my attention at the cloud. I could feel it getting more pissed off, but knew it was not capable of actually hurting anyone other than scaring the bejesus out of you. It faded away quickly. It made one more minor appearance when my girlfriend came for a weekend visit. She saw it and felt it, but it was much less strong and was gone in a few seconds. I used the same treatment on it as before. You may read the text of this on my blog at bhaidin.com. That's BHAIDIN.com.
Well, there you have it, folks. The Black Magician in the Quasi Rewind. I don't know how crazy that shit sounds, but it sounds pretty crazy to me, and I can still believe that over a 3-foot turd to go forth and spread the word of Zorth. And with that, hey, it's time for a Camping Tips for Stupids from our boy Jevin Moore. Let's see what Gone Camping has for us this week. Yeah, exactly. Oh, it doesn't smell like Irish Spring, and it doesn't bring me anything. Still, I slap my chest and sing of my drunken Irish dad.
Camping Tips for Stupids. Tip number 39. Japan is fucking weird. Anyway, it's springtime, which means snow melt time, which means flood times, which means wet t-shirt times for all. A lot of campgrounds usually sit by lakes, rivers, and even creeks that are fed by snowmelt. And this is the time of year in which all that snow that's been collecting on top of those mountains is going to melt down and drain into your campsite. So, what do you do about it? Well, you got a couple of options. 1. Build an ark, for one. Or 2. Camp on higher ground. Or 3. Learn to swim. Whichever option you decide, always camp on higher ground anyway, just in case you gotta pee. This has been Camping Tips for Stupids. Remember to spay and neuter your idiot population.
Well, welcome back, everybody, and remember, condoms ain't just for sinning. I'm put Jim in there with that. I love this one. This one was great. All right, let's time where we say hi to all those fans that are out there actually hanging out with us live here Wednesday nights in the live hangout. So let's see who's out there. Of course, it is my drunken Irish dad, Mr. Ryan McGinty. And now batting third, playing center field, Mr. Kurt Harris. Mr. Rod Dupree eating them peanut butter cookies. What's happening in the place to be? Mr. Dave Stump has returned to us tonight. Glad you're back, sir. Life and Times of JCM. You can find him on Gone Camping, Mr. Jebin Moore. That's right. Mr. Sam Squanch Rivera's in the house. How you doing, brother? Jason Gerd's in the house. Xander Hansen. Xander. It's like Xander Cage. Are you Triple X? Are you hiding out on us? Got Gary and Whitney White out there. How you doing? Glad you guys are joining us. Let's see here. We got Oreo Cream Rocks in the house. She finished my hat. I can't wait to get that thing, man. That'll be great. And we're back with the James Dalrymple. Hey, man, I think of Dalrymple with Coke. We're glad you're back, dude. I'm glad we didn't chase you off. We were really afraid we did. Lance Windsor, how you doing, buddy? Glad you could join us as well. But now the Bigfoot guy, he's hanging out there. Yeah, although friggin' the Bill Nye the Science Guy, boy, hasn't he gone off the damn deep end, weirdo. James the Grower, I know what you're growing. Let's see here. Who else is flying around out there tonight that we have? Duo Do Erdens hanging downtown. That's right. Mr. Quasi himself, Dean Cooper. Of course, Squatchbox and Christopher's hanging out, watching the show, as they always should be. Let's see here. I know there's more people than that. There's a whole crowd load of people in here earlier. Let's see. I'm stalling because I'm scrolling up to earlier times because you people chat and I love it. That's exactly why I sought out the chat for you guys. Let's see who else is floating around out here tonight. I know you're hiding up there. I just don't know who it is. Collier Wilmus, of course, is always in the house. He got that way. He's hanging out with me on Monday nights on that show. Let's see here. Where are we? I know there's more people. If I've missed you, it's because you're way, way up there and it might have erased it by now. And that's unfortunate. So if I haven't mentioned your name and you're here, make sure you go ahead and post something now. Otherwise, I won't know that you were here, and that'll be a shame. So let's see what else is happening here tonight. We are going to be talking about Allegheny, Pennsylvania Bigfoot sightings. That's right. Why not? Downtown Pittsburgh. Do you think it's real? I don't know. Jimbo Telegraphus. There's an Andrew Jones, Asderland Drake. Hi, guys and gals. And there's a good God, hi from West Virginia, but you need to buy a consonant between all, or a vowel between all them consonants used. HNN rules. Maybe that's how I worked that out. Not really sure. Dun, 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 dun. All right. That looks like I picked them all up. So we are so glad to have everybody here with us tonight. All right. So we're talking about that stupid thing keeps disappearing. I mean, there we go. Allegheny County, Pennsylvania. Where the heck is that? Well, here, I got a map that'll actually show you exactly where Allegheny County, Pennsylvania is. And that is right there, right around Pittsburgh. And since we're on the satellite image itself, you can actually see that we're still in ridges, rain shadows. We're still in the mountains. Pittsburgh is a little bit down in a valley, if you want to call it that. But where we talked about a couple of weeks ago was over here in Cambria County, just a couple of counties away. So while we're here, let's take a listen to where some of these encounters are actually coming from. Okay, starting off the encounters all the way back to the mid-1980s. Unfortunately, couldn't remember the exact date on it, but some of these, as you remember, were collected later in life. So it was summer in the mid-80s. Sorry, they can't be more specific. Some friends and I had taken to exploring the woods that surrounded our town. We were constantly in the woods for one reason or another. On this particular morning, I think it was around 9, only one of my friends was able to accompany me into the woods. We followed our normal trail to the rim of Curry Hollow, which is about 400 yards into the woods. We strung some ropes and went down this incline. It was steep enough that the ropes were necessary. When we got to the floor of the hollow, we started walking through a section of the woods that we hadn't checked out yet. Mostly we were just wandering and seeing what was in the area. At that time of my life, I had started developing an interest in the outdoors and wildlife. So whenever we could, we were in the woods. I tried to make sure that we were quiet enough not to scare away any animals, and we enjoyed trying to track the different species in the area. In our wanderings, we had found raccoon dens, snakes, birds' nests, and even tracked a few deer through the trees and brush. So when we saw the animal stand up in front of us, we knew instantly that this was something different. We were coming up on a deadfall that had been covered over with vines and surrounded by small saplings since it had fallen. We started to go around the fallen tree. It was like 80 to 100 feet long and 2.5 feet wide. We had made it to the base when we both spotted a humped shape covered over with brown hair or fur. The shape was about 10 feet in front of us and was close to a tangle of the vines in the brush. We both froze and just stared. We had both been told that though they were rare in the area, some people had seen bear in and around these woods, and that's what we thought it was. We knew we were too close. Thinking it might be injured since it was so still, I decided we should go home and let my father know, a local cop, about it. I glanced to see my friend and motioned to him that we should go back the way we came. We had just started to turn when the shape stood up and took off running. When it stood, we saw that it was at least 2 feet taller than us, and at that time, we were both around 5'5". When it started running is when we got scared. It was on 2 legs. It cleared a good 20 yards through the brush in what seemed like a split second. We instantly took off the other way and didn't stop until we had made it up the rope and out of the woods. We didn't discuss it at the time. Later that week, we talked about it and told some friends. And a few days later, we went back to that area with 3 more people. We found a tangle of brush the figure was behind and saw a large clear space, the size of which a small family of deer would have made. But there was no tracks, neither footprints nor hoofprints, and the ground cover was a thick mat of leaves over the entire area. We noticed nothing else out of the ordinary. And that's one of the things that I talk about, when we talk about Bigfoot hiding in plain sight. It doesn't need to cloak. Literally, if it just sits still, it doesn't move, unless you walk up on it like these kids would have done. You'd have never even been able to know it was there. Your eyes would have never tracked it. You would have never even seen it. You would have moved on out of the area, and boom, it could have continued on about its business. And it's just one of those, freeze in plain sight. Deers do it. When it's one of those things that's just not unbelievable. And I like a little bit of credibility to this one here. All right. The year is 1988, winter, November. Nearest town is Clairton. They're near Ravensburg Boulevard. I recently read a report on your website. Yeah, don't care. One morning in late November 1988, I went deer hunting near my home in Clairton. I drove down Ravensburg Drive and turned off to the right side of the road just before the Ravensburg Bridge and directly adjacent to the park. I drove about 100 yards down a dirt road to the base of a very steep and heavily wooded hillside. It was approximately 5:30. It was clear, very cold, near pitch black. I exited from my vehicle and opened the rear doors to retrieve my gun and the other hunting equipment. As I turned around, I heard a noise approximately 20 yards in front of me and to my right. There was a heavy thicket there. All of a sudden, I observed a very large, broad humanoid shape rise up from the thicket, and massive shape darted to the left. It made it up the steep, heavily wooded hillside in a few seconds and was out of sight. I was stunned, shocked, and really not sure what had just happened. I waited for it to get light before I entered the woods, and I sat in my deer stand for the rest of the day without incident. I don't usually tell this story because people think I'm just messing around with them, and my wife doesn't even believe me. That's one of those stories that hunters come across. We hear hunter stories all the time. Sometimes deer hunters have been known to lose their deer to a hungry squatch or parts of them. They shoot the deer, it runs off a mile. By the time they get there, the hind quarter and liver is gone. You dick, taking some of the best meat. So there's another believable story right there out of Allegheny County. Let's see here, 1997 fall, September. Nearest town is Swickley. Yeah. Nearest road was Glen Mitchell. It was September of 97, and I was outside on my back porch having a smoke. It was about 9 o'clock at night. It was a bright, clear night, and I'd been out on my porch for about 2 minutes. From my neighbor's yard, about 30 yards, I heard a high-pitched screech, identical to the 1978 recording from Washington. I turned to my left and saw a very big white human form running through their yard. It was about 8 to 9 feet tall. It was white in color. I could see it running with its head turned in my direction. I couldn't see its face, but I could see the darker outline of it. I watched it run into my woods. I heard it running through the woods for about 10 to 15 seconds before I hurried inside. Yeah, I think I'd hurry inside on that one too. It's all fun and games till Bigfoot shows up. A lot of these people, oh, Bigfoot's in your backyard. Oh yeah, a lot of these people's backyard's in the middle of the woods. So you got to take the good with the bad in Pennsylvania. I've lived in these areas. I understand how the hollers and the wallers work. I mean, I've got relatives that basically own half of a mountain because that's where they live all over it. It's crazy. All right, let's see. Still a few more to get through here tonight. 2006, winter, January. Allison Park near the Wildwood Sample Road. I was at work with my uncle. It's a family business, and it's located near the forest and a huge open field across the creek. Anyways, we were very busy at work, so my uncle was walking around and looks out the back door and stops and yells to me, "Hey, come here." So I run over to where he's standing, and he sees a big black hairy thing running down the hill. It definitely wasn't a bear. Bear can't run downhill on 2 feet. This thing was very big and hairy like an ape. It moved, and it was very, very fast. 2 witnesses, and we were just cleaning up at work a bit. It was one of those chance, why didn't they take a picture? Because they probably didn't have a camera. One of those chance encounters where, again, this dude's business is probably literally hanging off the side of a hill on one of these friggin' ridge tops, because that's how Pennsylvanians like to live. Hey, that's not redneck. That's Appalachian American. Get it right. Again, 2006, summer, July. We are right off of Route 909 near Kerr Road. Let's see, her name was Amanda. She lived in Plume, Pennsylvania. On July 23rd, she was sitting outside talking to her boyfriend of 9 months, Tommy. I heard something moving in the woods beside our house, but disregarding it as a wolf or a bear or something like that. Boy, that's a tough lady there, boy. I continued talking to Tommy for about another 20 minutes when I smelled something strange and happened to look up and see a figure in the middle of our field that appeared to be about 8 to 9 feet tall. It was very large and was covered with dark brown and black hair from head to toe. Its face was part human, part something else. I jumped up in fear, ran into my house, and immediately locked the doors and shut the blinds. My family was wondering what was wrong with me, and all I said was, as they said, was I was pale as a ghost. My mom went outside and shone the flashlight around, and we saw nothing else that night. The next morning, my cousin and I woke up, went outside to investigate. We found flattened grass and 3 clearings in the woods and tracks that led deep into the woods. We were going to go check out the woods, but both of us were frightened by what we had already found to venture off into the woods. That was the scariest moment of my life. Hell yeah. All righty then, let's get one last thing cleaned up for the night. Winter 2012. That's right. That was the apocalypse 2012, right? Let's see, we were expecting March. So we're talking about early time. About March 4th, 2012, at about 8:30 in the morning, I had a visual sighting. It was cold, snowy, a bit overcast, and a bit windy. Approximately 28 to 30 degrees outside. I was sitting in my mother's apartment on the 4th floor watching TV, and I happened to look out the window. I counted 15 full-grown turkeys moving down a hill adjacent to her apartment building. They were not running, but they were not talking at the same time. I'd like to say this moment is not unusual to see 2 or 3 turkeys at a time coming down the hill, but 15 was a bit out of the ordinary. A short time later, 3 deer came walking down the hill in that same manner as the turkeys. Not actually running, but not walking either. I didn't think much of it at the time, and it wasn't really all that unusual. I was going about my business, but I was surprised at the number of turkeys at one time. I asked my mother, who lived there for several years, if she had ever seen that many turkeys at one time, and she said no. My mother, who's 80 years old, and my wife, who's 38 years old, my son, who's 11 years old, and I'm 53, watched the turkeys walk across the park a lot. Boy, this guy's got it for the turkeys down by the church. Now, it didn't not summons my family to see the deer, as the deer were not a big deal, but less than 5 minutes after the turkey and the deer left, I was still sitting in my mother's room watching TV, and I caught a glimpse of something out of the corner of my eye that looked like I saw a very large, very hairy animal that is unknown to me near the top of the hill. The animal was on all fours near the top of the hill and took about 3 strides before it got to the top and stood up and made a right and ran on 2 feet into the forest part of the field. Now, it did not stand erect, fully erect, but 2/3 erect. The total time I had eyes on the creature was approximately 7 seconds. And since that day, I've tried to figure out in my mind why them turkeys were going down that hill. I understand that when I was younger, I was a hunter. I did a lot of deer hunting and a lot of bear hunting, and in the Allegheny Mountains, and seen a lot of animals, but never seen anything like this. I was a police officer for over 20 years, and I've been trained in observing my surroundings and articulating reports. South Park is not far from my mother's apartment building, and is full of wildlife and trees. In my mind, I feel as though the creature was responsible for chasing the turkey and deer out of the woods. They have been very hungry to chase them too far, not realizing that it made its way into a populated area when I had saw it. I was still trying to figure out why 15 turkeys were coming down the hill. Wow, that dude really, really, really loves turkeys. Well, there you have it, people. From the Turkey Man, 20-year cop. I had a little bit of credibility. Well, I wouldn't make up that he was sitting in his mama's apartment, looking out the window, watching TV, and seeing 15 turkeys go down the hill. So there you have it. The official Bigfoot reports coming out of Allegheny County up until the year 2012. Wow, look at that. Another episode of the Squatchers Lounge podcast is just about to come to an end. And I appreciate you guys very much being out there. It's one of them things that I never thought the show would grow as far as it actually has. And I appreciate all of you fans out there. So with that, we're going to say goodnight to you with a Bigfoot campfire story that's one of my favorites. And it comes from not too far from Allegheny County itself, when a trapper sees a female Bigfoot in Pennsylvania. Thanks so much for being here live with me tonight. Join me next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Yep, you can find us at facebook.com/SLounge Podcast for the fan page, and groups /SLounge Podcast for the Hangout group. Thanks so much for being here, and may the Squatch be with you. What the hell is that? I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure it was a Bigfoot. Let me tell you a story. Well, this story was given to me by Fred. Now, Fred was an old trapper I knew growing up in the Appalachian Mountains as a kid. He was known to be gone for weeks at a time up in the high peaks. People used to joke about him getting taken by the mountain devils. Well, that may not be that far off. This story tells us. I had been up on the mountain for about a week when the winter storm moved in. I decided to try and make it up to my trapper shack up over the next ridge. The wind was blowing so hard that the snow started to feel like shards of ice hitting me in the face, so I decided to get off of the ridge and into the tree line to try and get some coverage from the weather. I trudged on for about another hour when I realized that there was no way I was going to make it to the shack. I was going to have to hunker down and get a quick shelter up with fire and wait out the storm. I quickly grabbed up some tinder and kindling and set a fire to burn as I gathered up some bigger branches to start the shelter. I built up a fast rubbish wind block and sat near the fire to keep warm. The wind really picked up and the snow seemed to be falling nearly an inch per hour. If it didn't let up soon, I was going to be in real trouble trying to get out of here in the morning. Now, I'd been up in these mountains my entire life, and from time to time, I'd see things that made no sense, like a deer found dead with their necks twisted and livers taken out, and at the time, I'd find weird stick markers that really big footprints around them, much bigger than a man, of course, and, well, the legends of the mountain devils, but I'd always thought that that was just the local moonshiners keeping nosy people out of the area, but, oh, how wrong I was. The night had grown dark, and the wind had settled down, and the snow was just lightly falling when I first heard it approaching. Slow, heavy footsteps sounded like they were being placed deep into the snow with a heavy animal, and the breath was getting louder as it came near my small makeshift camp. Now, if you didn't know it, you'd never even see that the camp was there. I heard a low grunt from just behind my location. I must admit I was a bit shaken, not knowing what it was. It walked along the tree line behind me, and then I noticed the footsteps had stopped. I began scanning the area around me, hoping to see what it was, and then it began to move again. The creature stepping along the wood line out of the shadows. When my small fire lit up the beast, it let out a shriek like I'd never heard before, loud and menacing, as it was taken by surprise, covering its eyes and peeking through the covering just to see me sitting there near the fire. It appeared to be a female creature standing on two legs, long, hairy arms kind of hanging low past the waist. It appeared to have no neck and a rounded head with a ridge sticking out above the brow. If it were not covered in thick graying hair, I would have thought that it was a giant naked woman. She raised her arms up again, and her eyes glowed. It was very disturbing looking, and she growled unapprovingly, kicked some snow towards the fire, and ran off into the darkness. I sat there shaken and confused as to what had just happened. Could it have been the mountain devil? Were the stories true? Had I seen it for myself, yet I still had trouble believing it was not a dream. The rest of the night, I kept the fire burning, and by first light, I had come to grips with what had happened. I had been visited by the mountain devil, and she did not approve. Thanks for listening. I'm Reverend Jeff, and may the Squatch be with you.